Hi, everyone. We've got a weekly update about what's happening behind the scenes. This is going to be Rust heavy, kind of not hardcore computer science, but like it's difficult stuff. So if you're looking for an update on games and stuff, like we'll probably come back to that next week.
Yeah.
This is what we've been focusing on. Richard, you want to set the scene?
Yeah, so I think maybe the way to put it is the way to contextualize where we're at is, we kind of went mainnet about 6 months ago,
Hmm.
and we're super happy that like not one Noland has wandered off. Consensus itself has been rock solid.
Yeah.
The two core block producing nodes that just have run, flawlessly basically ever since.
Yeah.
But in running nodes and inviting node operators onto the network, and then also trying to address kind of some different issues around UX and stuff, we've bumped into
The
things.
high level point is that the instability we're seeing is in the network side. So it's kind of like there's two parts to the software. There's the consensus part,
Yeah.
and then there's this networking part.
Sort of.
The networking part has been very messy and it's kind of encrustified, and there's been technical debt because of the complexity of what's happening with networking, right? Like your browser owns the socket, but there's a Rust core that has the pure data.
Yeah. So the way I kind of see it is we have our rock solid kernel of the Rust code that runs consensus. That's actually very simple code, very elegant in its design, but very simple code. And then you have some code around that to get information in and out of there. And then you've sort of got some layers that handle networking and so forth. And then we inserted that inside the JavaScript as well.
That's a terrible description.
I think it's a great description. How I see it.
Super confusing. Well, it's because you're right about networking and consensus, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that is in Saito core.
Yep.
But we also have Saito Wasm and Saito Rust.
Right. So it's sort of this. It's Rube Goldberg a bit to get your browser running that Rust kernel, basically.
Like your browser, anything networking is sending data that goes in, and the bit that it goes into also has these two pieces. The consensus piece is fine. The network piece is kind of grappling and dealing with everything.
Yeah.
The reason this stuff matters is the problems that we're noticing that are hitting adoption and that we get feedback on are almost always on the networking side. And maybe I can give an example.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of people on the crypto side, like they'll visit Red Square, they'll see a post, they'll be like, okay, well, we can improve the application. The usage that we're getting in places like the arcade, though, some of the networking issues are things like you join and then the handshake happens and then the blockchain happens, and only then does your browser really become usable. So it's either a longer wait for the applications to load, or sometimes the application can load, but it will still take 1 to 2 seconds, or it will work normally.
Yeah,
right?
And this is worst if you're actually the best kind of user who kind of comes back daily or so, because you open back up and the browser wants to sync the blockchain, but that's like 8-10 hours worth of blocks. That's quite a bit, and we end up in this problem. Yeah.
Right, and I mean, and so that's a situation for us that's important because it affects the usability of the people that are coming and using Saito and growing. Actually, we are getting growing transaction volume with TS, which is lovely.
Yeah.
So we want to fix that. We want to make sure that Saito loads faster, it syncs faster. There aren't any of these dead periods, because otherwise, users just need to learn you load and like maybe for the first second or something, it's not reliable, and that's not a great solution. So these are the sorts of things we're fixing. We're fixing them by refactoring the way peers work. We've talked a bit about this. The analogy I want to give to describe why the fix is so important is, imagine we have a police dispatch system. And previously what happens as things got added is originally the police dispatcher would be like, oh, this is for the fire hall, send it over. Oh, there's a robbery at 4th and Jane, send that to the cops, right? And this is the network layer. It's just routing commands. But sometimes, because, well, this isn't a responsibility of the fire hall, it's not a responsibility, we'd have shit like, okay, you need a light block chain, and the the dispatcher gets up away from their desk, they start bundling the blocks together, they do it, they sit back down and they flush it out to you. And the result of this can be that in some situations, the server itself stops being able to effectively prioritize when it's under certain kinds of load.
Yep.
Not usually under those kinds of load, but it can get under those kind of load in conditions where you have like a user that comes to the network, or a really old time user that needs a really long blockchain. And even if the server handles that well, it might cause a bit of a stagger in the way.
We're also seeing this in no small part because we have a few node operators and then more users. And so it's when those things collide, right? It's okay if the dispatcher's not at his desk if there's no one calling up, but the more people you have calling on a regular basis, the more likely it starts causing a backlog and a problem.
The dispatcher can basically get a bit backlogged in some situations because there are these bits where it's doing things itself. Yep. And so this is the sort of thing we're working on, and it's a bit complicated, but it's happening. Mm-hmm. What we've got happening that you can't see is the current version on the site is a patch from about 2 weeks ago, which has fixed 1 or 2 small, really subtle bugs, and we're monitoring that. We have another refactor that we're looking at the next step in that's running on, I think, 1 or 2 servers now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and 2. Yep.
We're going to have another one next week. So what's happening behind the scenes is the improved software is coming out. It's getting put on the network for testing. And when we get it to the end, we get to update the whole network. And we're working on this because we think it's the most important thing to improve quality of use in Arcade and Red Square, but also the cleanup and simplification is needed so that AI can understand the software. And this is increasingly obvious to us as something that Saito needs to be leading at.
Well, I mean, I've been doing experimentation both with like trying to build traditional Saito modules, but then also I've set up an open core for myself, and I thought, well, I wonder if I could build something that will let it just send a message onto the network, which is a little piece of software we didn't have before. And you could see, like, you could just tell by how hot the AI is running when you build an agent team to build something like that. Like, most of the time, like putting the infrastructure together, getting it compiling, rusting, it's all flying along. And then it hits certain aspects of communicating with the Saito code. So it understood consensus really quickly.
As soon as there's an API wall, it assumes the other side is going to do what the function says it's doing.
And it read the Red Square module and instantly understood how to format and send a Red Square message. That was easy. But it was just the bit about where you're telling it to communicate about the state of the blockchain and just grab enough blockchain that it's ready to send a message.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it starts erring, and I had to sit down and talk to it and say, look, I know it may not seem like this, but this is how it works. So you want to have these 3 states, you want to do blah, 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 blah. That's where we can improve.
This is part of the Rust refactor too. There's a bunch of small bits of code that are kind of hacked on in the Rust side because they use the Rust code. And one of the changes that's happening, I think I mentioned this last week, is that the JavaScript modules are getting basically a new branch of functions they can call. All modules and all bits of the application, they get this app object. It's like a singleton with pointers called functions. And previously it was reasonably flat when it involved Rust. You'd say, I want to talk to Rust. You get the Rust object, it's separate. And then the Rust object has like a long flat list of things you can call. This is being turned essentially into an organized menu. So app core, meaning Saito core, crypto functionality is there. Important because it means we don't have different cryptographic algorithms at the different layers. Everyone can use the exact same hyper-optimized Rust version.
Well, and once you've found one, you're likely to find the other one you need because you know where the first one was. Right?
Things like app, core, network, peers get info. App, core, network, peers get peer info when you provide the public key. So things like this where it becomes an organized hierarchy, where it's very obvious and very easy to pass information back and forth. And we need this to do things like improve the store. We need it to do things like improve NFT listings, right? Because right now you can transfer NFTs, but dividing them and combining them isn't something that's very easy on the fly. And for things like the store, like if you're listing, if you create 1,000 Substack subscriptions, you put them on the store, you don't want to have to manually divide them up into 1,000 pieces. So this is kind of enabling work for that. The fact that it's really deep in the stack is one reason you're probably not seeing much on. We're just basically growing beards and coding and.
Well, I'm doing some other things, which might be a good thing to kind of wrap up with. But yes, we're pretty deep in the weeds on some of this stuff at the moment, but I think for good reason, and obviously, for the ability to make faster progress on other stuff.
We're gonna. It's gonna be a lot better. It's gonna be a lot faster on load, I think, too.
Yeah. So just I kind of threw in there that I've been building that toolkit for agents. If anyone is interested in picking that up, I'd love to spend more time on it, but I'm limited in what I can do. There's some super cool and fun little projects in there, like building a Saito module to learn to play the games as a bot, which would just be really interesting for anyone who's wanting to do that, or anyone who'd be interested in building MCP or other agent communications across the Saito network. I can point you in the right direction. It's cool.
If the AI constantly loses at TS, we can call it Tuco.
That's unfair. Tuco, we love him.
I think he beats me more than I beat him now.
Just pretend that doesn't happen. Keep him mentally down. Other than that, I have been working with Alex and the team on communications and stuff. So people have noticed the Open Internet podcast going out. That's starting to pick up steam. And I think that's hitting the sort of broader community interest in what we've always been about, namely open internet, non-exclusionary design of applications, etc. All of those cool things that people are starting to feel with real problems, like they're just getting sick of their Google and their Facebook and their WeChat and things, removing services, turning everything into rent, and just blocking people or whatever random, age verification in the OS, all sorts of stuff like that that's going on that points people into what we've had as our core messaging all along, which is you need a network that can't exclude people, that has things like the ability to message someone without needing any intermediaries, etc. So that's picking up. That's getting some steam. That's good. And we're also working with the 8Bond guys to kind of get that out and get that in front of more people to kind of also generate some vibe around the project. So there's lots going on. And if anyone wants to get involved on the AI side of things, hit us up, because there's plenty of little mini projects I'd love to have time to do that I'm kind of backlogging. So lots of ways to get involved and help.
My guess is things are going to be pretty invisible because the work's on the Rust side for another week or so. And then we're going to have the question of how quickly and how we roll out the changes. And there's a bunch of stuff on the application layer that's queued for after that. We've still got these teasers to go out. We don't want to, one of the reasons is because we're preparing for this upgrade, we don't want to be playing around. We want to make sure we have really
the source. If you do have a bug, you want to know the source of it is this one thing you changed. You don't want to be searching for like, where did
But we also, in preparation for the change, we don't want to be updating things, because then if you introduce some kind of instability, you roll back to your stable version, which is unstable because there were issues that you changed. Right. But my guess, people looking will update you, I guess, on this stuff next week or the week after. We're going to see another week basically focused on core at least. And then applications are going to come back in, and you'll see that the NFTs are going to get a lot more flexible. And that's going to help us get the store out the door.
Cool. Well, if anyone has any questions and stuff, hit us on Red Square. I'm noticing more activity there as well, actually. It's been fun. So do hit us up there. And
this pure instability, we've been working on it. Like there's just a bunch of these tiny fixes, and I think everyone that we fix, there's a percentage of people who come and it's just more stable and more reliable for them.
It's those little things, speed of load, the message is just slick when you right from the first one you send, all of that kind of stuff.
There's one out of 90 times the transaction doesn't stop, and you get that alert saying, "Oh, have you sent your transaction? We don't know." mocking our own software stack, but that was a problem, or it is a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's a problem because you can see someone new to Saito, they hit the application, and as soon as they're like, well, it's already new to them, and as soon as it's not behaving the way they expect, it's a lot harder for people to convert into, okay, I get what this is.
Well, and some of it you could communicate around, but it's a better solution to not have the issue.
I mean, it's really rough if when the page loads and you make an invite, it doesn't work. But if you wait 1.5 seconds, it works.
It penalizes those young kids with their quick mouse skills. Although young kids don't use mice. Anyway. All right. Should we wrap it up there? I think that's been a good update. Thanks, everyone. And hit us on Red Square if you're around.